There comes a striking moment, piercing, hushed, and nearly intolerable, when you discover fear has been subtly molding your entire existence, not through dramatic events, but in those tiny choices you barely recognize anymore, the career opportunity. You avoided the honest words you kept inside, the aspiration you set aside, because someone suggested it was excessive, and you accepted their judgment because fear cleverly masks itself as rational thinking, as protection, as maturity. Let's be honest with ourselves. Most of what frightens us isn't authentic. It's a narrative playing in our minds, crafted from previous wounds, fueled by worry, and completely separated from reality. The Stoic philosophers were merciless. In their clarity about this, if you find yourself troubled by any external thing, as Marcus Aurelius stated, the discomfort isn't due to the thing itself, but to your perception of it. And this you possess the ability to withdraw at any instant. Reflect on that statement again, because that's our purpose here, to remove fear's influence. We're not simply discussing how to handle fear, we're going deeper, addressing the foundations, the false assumptions, the invisible restrictions. By this video's conclusion, you'll not just perceive fear differently, you'll perceive yourself differently. If that speaks to you, if you're weary of living cautiously in a life calling for expansion, there's one simple free request. Click that subscribe button. It signals these messages are finding their intended audience. Now let's begin, embracing life's natural flow. Have you noticed how your thoughts grip tightest just before something slips from your grasp? We desire permanence in our professional lives, in our connections, even in our emotional states. We hunger for certainty as though it's essential for survival, but existence doesn't follow our planned schedule. It never has. Everything surrounding you, your physical form, your circumstances, your sense of self, is perpetually evolving. The harder you attempt to keep it stationary, the quicker it escapes your grasp. That's precisely what nourishes fear. The illusion that things ought to remain. Unchanged change isn't our adversary. Our resistance to it is we become distressed when things conclude. We grieve what once existed. We fear the unfamiliar. But here's the contradiction. The more you resist change, the greater your suffering becomes. Stoicism identifies this resistance as self-inflicted torment. Marcus Aurelius expressed it clearly. Loss is merely another form of change, and change is nature's pleasure. Nature doesn't dread winter because it understands spring will arrive. Why should we behave differently? Consider this: every heartache you believed would permanently destroy you, didn't every embarrassing failure you were convinced would define you, vanished every dark period past whether you realized it or not. Pain isn't permanent. Neither is happiness that's not a defect. It's liberation. Carl Jung once remarked, "What you resist persists." The more you battle against life's changing nature, the deeper fear entrenches itself. But when you release the need for permanence, when you cease trying to direct every outcome, fear starts losing its influence. You don't become detached. You become discerning. You begin trusting your ability to adjust rather than your need to anticipate. Let's get truthful. Fear wears numerous disguises. Sometimes it sounds like, "I'm not prepared." Other times it's, "What if I don't succeed?" Or, "They'll mock me." But strip away the layers and you'll discover something unexpected. Fear is merely a thought, just a phrase in your mind dressed as truth. The Stoics comprehended this profoundly. They believed the mind isn't disturbed by occurrences, but by its interpretation of them. It's not situations that upset us, Epictetus declared, but our judgments about situations. Read that statement again, because that single truth can undo years of fear-driven existence. We imagine fear as some external monster creeping up behind us, but typically it's simply our imagination playing horror. Films we haven't chosen to watch. You're not being pursued. You're anticipating being pursued. Significant difference. What if the worst happens? What if they depart? What if I can't manage it? Your mind constructs these narratives like a late-night television host, and you sit watching, believing every word. But here's the trick. Your brain cannot distinguish between genuine threat and vividly imagined one. That's why you perspire before job interviews, like you're being hunted, why your stomach tightens when considering starting something new. The mind creates the scenario, and the body reacts as though it's authentic. Carl Jung expressed it perfectly when he stated, "People will do anything, no matter how irrational, to avoid confronting their own." Soul fear often isn't about the circumstance. It's about what the circumstance reflects back to us. Our insecurities, our unresolved wounds, the fragile aspects of ourselves we prefer not to examine. So how do you address this illusion? You don't debate with fear. You observe it like watching a cloud drifting across the sky. You identify it. Oh, hello, there's that thought again, the one where I'm inadequate. Interesting. You don't need to believe it. You just need to recognize it for what it is, mental noise, anchoring in the present. Have you caught yourself mid-panic and realized nothing is actually happening at this moment? Nobody's criticizing you. Nothing's falling apart. You're just spiraling within your thoughts. That's what fear accomplishes. It pulls you from the present and throws you into a future that doesn't exist yet, or a past you cannot alter. Fear loves time travel. It's rarely rooted in the present. It thrives on what-ifs and remember when you made that mistake. It keeps you trapped in an emotional cycle, responding to scenarios that aren't even authentic. And the worst aspect, you believe it. You experience it physically. Your heart accelerates. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your mind races as if fleeing. A predator, but there's no predator stoicism, instructs us to anchor ourselves to the now. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Restrict yourself to the present, not tomorrow, not 10 minutes ahead, just now. Because right now, you're all right, you're breathing, you're secure, you're capable." When you return to the present moment, fear loses its energy. Why? Because fear is a projection. It requires the future or the past to persist. The present moment is too authentic, too grounded, too peaceful. In this moment, you're not failing. You're not being evaluated. You're not damaged. You're simply here. Try this next time fear seizes you. Pause. Don't battle it. Don't reject it. Just return. Feel your feet connecting with the ground. Take 3 unhurried breaths. Look around. Identify what you observe. Touch something textured. Hear a sound. This isn't mystical. This is neuroscience. Grounding yourself physically brings the emotional brain down from its alarm state and restores control to your logical mind. Let me ask you something. How frequently have you felt like you're the only person experiencing fear? As if everyone else somehow has everything figured out and you're the one fumbling around in darkness, hoping nobody notices the fear in your voice or the trembling in your hands. That sensation, that isolation, is one of fear's cleverest deceptions. It convinces you that your struggle represents a personal deficiency, that you're inadequate for feeling anxious, that you're flawed for being unable to simply overcome it. But let's identify it for what it truly is, a falsehood. The Stoics never claimed life would be painless. Actually, they constructed their entire philosophy around recognizing that suffering is a universal human experience. They didn't view fear, pain, or grief as indicators of failure. They saw them as components of the landscape. Epictetus was born into slavery. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire during epidemic. Seneca composed letters about resilience while experiencing exile and personal tragedy. Yet none proclaimed, "This is unfair, I must be defective." They said, "This is existence, so what now?" Aristotle maintained that we acquire courage by behaving as if we already possess it. In other words, the existence of fear isn't evidence of weakness, it's the training ground for strength. It's the resistance you overcome to build resilience. Psychologist Carl Rogers once noted that what is most personal is most universal, that ache within your chest. Millions experience it, that fear of inadequacy. It echoes across generations. You aren't some exception, you are human, and being human means you will hurt, you will doubt, and indeed you will fear. But none of that renders you unworthy. It makes you authentic. Let's be candid. Most of us don't fear the unknown. We fear not controlling the outcome. We fear not having influence over how events unfold. That's what truly keeps us awake at night. It's not merely that we don't know what's approaching, it's that we can't control what's approaching. That's why we overthink, why we rehearse conversations mentally days beforehand, why we check our devices compulsively, or imagine worst-case scenarios like some disturbing bedtime story. We're not preparing, we're grasping for control in a world that refuses control. And this is where fear flourishes, in the illusion that we must manage everything. The Stoics recognized this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have authority over your mind, not external events. Understand this, and you will discover strength." What he meant was straightforward, but profoundly liberating. The external world will never comply with your wishes. People will disappoint you. Arrangements will collapse. The economy will decline. Loved ones will depart. Your body will age. These matters aren't within your power, and clinging to the notion that they should be, that's the source of unnecessary suffering. Control is appealing. It provides the illusion of safety. But here's the reality. The more you attempt to control everything, the more anxious you become, because deep down you recognize it's an unwinnable game. And whenever life doesn't follow your plan, fear rushes in to remind you how fragile that control truly was. Releasing control doesn't mean surrendering. It means recognizing the boundary between what's yours and what isn't. That's the Stoics' razor. Cutting away what's beyond your domain and concentrating your complete effort on what remains within it. You cannot control someone's feelings toward you, but you can control how you present yourself in conversation. You cannot guarantee employment, but you can control the effort invested in preparation. You cannot prevent rain, but you can carry protection. Carl Jung stated, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That's the essence of letting go. It's not passivity, it's power redirected inward. It's declaring, "I may not control the tempest, but I will control my response to it." You're probably tired of hearing, "Be patient, development requires time." It sounds pleasant on a coffee mug, but when you're deeply immersed in self-doubt, anxiety, or fear, that advice seems empty. Because, truthfully, when you're working to overcome fear, when you're exposing yourself, making adjustments, doing the necessary work, it's challenging not to desire immediate results. You want the fear to disappear. You want confidence to materialize. You want healing to be completed already. But here's the truth. Nobody enjoys confronting. Genuine change is gradual, it's subtle, uneven, often imperceptible, and unless you cultivate patience, you'll abandon yourself before the work begins yielding benefits. Fear thrives in urgency. It tells you you're lagging, that time is running short, that you should have resolved this already. But that voice, it's not wise, it's not truthful. It's merely noise, and patience helps you decrease its volume. The Stoics didn't expect perfection from themselves. They understood their humanity, and being human meant stumbling. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't anticipate the impossible. Don't become angry when you falter. Begin again." It wasn't about achieving flawlessness. It was about returning again and again with humility. But we don't extend similar kindness to ourselves. We judge every setback as defining our entire journey. We make one mistake and declare, "See, I'll never transform." We feel fear and assume we're deficient, but you're not deficient, you're developing, and development often resembles disorder when you're amid it. Carl Jung comprehended this. He said the most frightening thing is to accept oneself completely. And isn't that what truly frightens us? That we'll encounter ourselves fully, imperfections, fears, failures, and discover something undeserving. That if we're patient, if we decelerate, we'll have to confront the aspects we try to escape. But that's where transformation commences, when you stop forcing change and instead nurture it, when you stop rushing toward a fixed image of who you believe you should be and start accepting who you are currently, with room to evolve. Aristotle taught that virtue forms through habit, not overnight victories, not breakthroughs on demand. Habit, repetition, small acts of courage repeatedly, even while fear whispers, even while uncertainty persists. That's how patience becomes strength. Consider it like developing a muscle. You wouldn't enter a gym lift, a heavy weight once, and expect immediate results. So why do we expect emotional strength to appear instantly? Why do we expect courage to remain after one difficult conversation? You don't build resilience by avoiding fear. You build it by walking through fear repeatedly with patience as your companion. And let's distinguish patience from passivity. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It means performing the right actions consistently, even when results develop slowly. It means trusting the process, even when it's frustrating. It means permitting yourself to be developing not as justification, but as progression. So, next time you feel like surrendering or feel fear gaining ground, pause, breathe. Remind yourself this isn't the conclusion. This is a stage. You're not failing, you're unfolding. Don't rush it, don't criticize yourself. Be steady, be compassionate, be patient, because the greatest breakthroughs often arrive just after the moment you were about to quit. And if you remain with yourself long enough with patience in reserve, you'll become someone even fear cannot challenge. Fear loses its influence the moment you stop fleeing from it and start listening to what it's attempting to teach you. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're simply becoming. Thank you for joining Fear Freedom Journey, this space where we walk through discomfort, not around it. If this resonated with you, there's another video waiting for you right here on the screen, specifically selected to take you one step further. And if you ever find yourself lost again, return. This journey will remain here waiting, exactly where you paused. Stay centered, stay aware. Until next time.